everyone. You're listening to the Lemon Narrative Podcast with Sabrine. I am Sabrine, your host, and I am a writer and a storyteller. In this podcast, I'm meeting a lot of you to talk about your human experiences and your narrative of it and answering the main questions I've asked you before. What would you tell me if I'm writing a feature film about you? Today, I'm here with Laura. Am I pronouncing your name right?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here with me. I am so excited to listen to your story, your narrative, but I will let you introduce yourself. So here you go.
Well, first, Sabrine, let me just say I'm so excited to be able to chat with you today. I'm Laura, and I am the owner of Laura Jean Lives. And basically, I do one-on-one coaching, personal coaching, and basically, I just have a lot that I want to share with people. And I'm just super excited to do it.
Thank you, Laura, for sharing that. Okay, I'll start by asking you the main umbrella question, right? Which is, what would you tell me if I am writing a feature film about you? My question that would lead or start this narrative, your narrative, is, in movies, there's always an opening scene, right? Whether it's someone walking somewhere, someone is chasing someone, it's a car chase, it's like someone giving birth to a child, and this is the story of the child, or it will go back to the parents trying to have this child. So far in your life, what would you think of something like when I asked this question the first time? What would be the opening scene of your movie?
So I've been thinking about that question, and the thing that keeps popping into my mind has to do with when I got sober. So
Mm.
I am in recovery 20 years for alcoholism, and the opening scene of a feature film for me would be me pushing half a drink away and saying, I'm done.
Mm.
And that was the last time that I had a drink.
Okay. I'm a visualized person, so I'm just going to have this in my mind. It's you sitting with that. It's like half a cup or of
So I was
alcohol.
sitting out on the back patio
Mm-hmm.
at the patio table.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was just so fancy, Sabrine, because I had a martini, but it was in a juice glass.
Mm.
So it was just a short little glass, but it was half of a drink. And as someone that is an alcoholic, I mean, I never left any drink unfinished. So
Mm.
I pushed that drink across the patio table to where my ex-boyfriend was sitting and said, I'm done.
That's it.
Mhm.
What led you to this moment?
I was at a point in my life where I felt like I was just an empty shell.
Mm. Empty shell.
Yeah. So I, the drinking was really starting to become dangerous for me.
Mm.
And every day I just had so much chaos in my head all the time. Worrying about this, thinking about that, being stressed out about this, and not having self-esteem or confidence because I knew that I was an alcoholic.
Mm.
And but I continued to drink anyways. I couldn't stop. And so I just got to a point where I didn't want to die, and I had
Mm.
just kind of had enough. I just felt like I was just beat down to a point where something had to change.
Something had to change. Okay, let's stop here. You said you were fancy. When I'm someone who doesn't drink. I didn't grow up in a society that like all of us drink because I'm Muslim. But in my society, men were like somehow are allowed to drink, and some of them drink, including my dad and people in the family, like many in the family, and then they would quit as they get older and get into their religious state, like mode, like we're like this age we need to be religious because drinking is forbidden in our religion, right? So I don't know a lot about the drinking culture and how people start drinking. I didn't live that, right? But here is how I saw it. I saw it in movies, and it's usually they usually bring this person as desperate or like in a really bad state, like in which they almost look like a homeless person. It's like they stink, they're drunk, that state. But you're not describing that, you're describing yourself in a patio fancy, again, probably martini is fancy, right? And you're describing this, but you still admit it, that you're alcoholic, right? Was that this is your first time admitting it, or there was an incident, or I don't understand that part. That's why I'm asking you this. How did alcohol became part of your life to the point where you had to admit this, I'm alcoholic?
Well, first, let me say that when I said I was fancy, I was totally joking because
Oh, okay.
I was drinking like what's supposed to be a fancy drink, which is a martini,
Mm,
but I was just
mm,
drinking it out of like your standard kitchen juice glass. And
okay.
so, because it's kind of, it didn't matter. Nothing mattered as long as I had my alcohol. Um, and so I don't remember like the point of where I wasn't an alcoholic and then I was. I just remember one day I identified that I was an alcoholic. And
Mm,
at that point, I did continue to drink for 3 more years. Because I just couldn't imagine my life without it. And so I resigned myself to the fact that I was an alcoholic and I was probably going to die young.
mm. This is sad that you want to die young, or like you admit it, you're alcoholic but you're dependent on it, it's part of your life to the point where you just accept it, you're going to die young, right? And I think that led you to the point where you said this is enough, where you pushed it away.
Mhm.
Okay, what happened after that? How did you stay sober?
The next morning, and I do want to say that I feel that because I have a belief in a higher power that I call God.
Mm.
And I believe that I had a lot of divine um,
Help
intervention for that
intervention.
because I don't think I could have just done that completely on my own power. The next morning when I woke up, I really didn't know what I was going to do. I called my dad, who lived across the country, and he was out here 2 days later,
Mm.
and to support me in my beginning recovery. And so I did do some outpatient classes, and that's continued through the past 20 years for me.
Mm. Okay, so you are saying consistency is part of recovery.
For me, it is.
Mm.
I definitely could not speak for anyone else
Of course, yes.
because recovery is such a personal thing
Mm.
as far as what that solution looks like.
Mm.
And consistency is absolutely a part of it. And what's really cool about the fact that I'm sober now is my recovery requires me to be as self aware as possible.
Mm.
And through that discovery, and it's ongoing, which is so exciting and awesome for me, is that I have found like some of the reasons why I had so much chaos inside of my head. Because when I did get sober, it's almost like the alcohol was my old solution
Mm.
to the chaos in my head. And when the alcohol was removed, I didn't feel better right away, like mentally and emotionally, because I still had the chaos on my head. So I had to find a new solution to
Mm.
that chaos. And I'm blown away by the things that I've learned about myself, the tools that I've learned to have less chaos in my head and more peace. And the
Mm.
cool thing about it is that the tools I've learned, I've inadvertently been able to share that with people. So I'll be talking to a family member on the phone and they're going through a struggle, and I'll offer them my advice and they find help from that. And it's just me sharing with them what I do for myself every day.
Mm. That's inspiring for me, that you are being vulnerable with who you are and who you were, and sharing it with someone, um, that you think they're not where you were precisely, but you can sense that they need the help um, you once needed, right? So this is when you were at that point in your life. Sorry, were you working? What were you doing?
Yes. And I'm so glad you asked that because you had mentioned about the picture of the alcoholic, right? So
Mm,
living under the bridge, homeless, smelly, dirty. And
yeah.
I looked like I look right now. So I had a full-time job that I was going to every day. I paid
Mm,
my bills. I had
mm,
friends. I socialized. To look
mm,
at me, you would never think that I was an alcoholic.
yeah.
And I don't say was past tense, I always will be, but you wouldn't think that by looking at a person. So it's not very easily definable, which is also why it's very personal because only I can say if I'm an alcoholic or not. Um,
Mm,
and that would be true for anyone. And when I talk about the chaos in my head, I mean, there could be any originating issue for that. So, which is why it's so cool that I can share these tools with other people because it
mm,
isn't just specific to other people that have suffered from addiction. It could be anything. It could be perfectionism. It could be, any number of things. And so it's been kind of this added benefit because I'm able to connect with people um, that it doesn't matter what the originating issue is. We all seem to have like the same struggles and we can be there for each other. We don't have to do life by ourselves.
yeah. Like word on that. Um, the reason, oh gosh, I have so much to say. The reason I asked you about when I pictured the movies and what we see in movies, right, or films, is because like I specialized, not special, like I studied mental health and neuroscience. I don't know if you know that, and it became a habit because of my studies to notice when they're mentioning mental health in a film, right? Or if someone who's like in the media talking about a certain mental health topic, or saying because I just watched some podcast, let's say they're portraying someone who's autistic, right, as this genius person, like The Good Doctor, for example. That was a show, an amazing show, loved it, and it had many version in other countries as well. But me being someone who works with autistic children, that's not the only narrative, right? You're just taking one specific case and making a show out of it, and would that like it transferred to people. That's how certain disease or illness or disorder looks like, right? So when they present an alcoholic person, that's how they present it in media or movies or films, etc., etc. Also, the causing behind alcohol, being alcoholic, it always has to be this traumatic event, right? No one talks about burning out. No one talks about the chaos in the mind, right? Because or like trigger warning. Let's talk about something even much more deeper, like sexual assault, right? It has to be extreme. Everything
Mhm.
has to be extreme to be presented, but on the daily life, nothing is extreme. Does extreme doesn't happen every day. It things happen bit by bit, and you know they just a bit by bit it happen in your brain, and then it becomes probably extreme or overwhelming over time, right?
Mhm.
That's why I asked you, what were you doing? How did you reach that point? And I love how you said, I was doing my my work, right? And maybe there's an underlying cause that you're not discussing now, or you would want to discuss now, right? But I love that you painted this picture of you waking up every day. I'm just imagining that's what a full-time job is. You wake up in the morning, you shower, you get dressed, you look good, you go to work, you put your effort, and you smile, you make the small chit chats, and you do your job, and you come home, and I don't know, you cook, you do this, you do that, you sleep, and it's repeat. That was what's happening with you, right? This and the
Yeah,
addition of alcohol to it. So this is very important. This is very important to be represented. What do you think?
absolutely. I think that what we see on TV especially in movies is, I mean, even the bad stuff is kind of romanticized. But there's definitely the stereotypical way that things are shown.
Mm,
And it is found in the mundane and in the daily,
mm,
that you see these things, and it's not the guy under the bridge.
no, they're brushed off. Why do you think they brush it off? Like, would you brush off someone else who's telling you it's exhausting for me to wake up every morning to go to my job as a coach right now?
I would be so excited to dig into that with them because there's so much freedom that we can have that we don't even realize. I was walking around like a zombie for so many years.
Mm,
Um, even after, the drink was removed, like I didn't even realize I had this chaos in my head because I was so used to it.
mm,
And there's this idea of acceptance, of being in acceptance of everything in this moment. So it's kind of like letting your breath out and just saying, like, everything is as it should be in this moment right now. And there's a relief to that. There's a weight that's lifted off of my shoulders when I'm
mm,
not fighting against what
mm,
is. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't take action or take strides towards improving my life or making a change, or I'm going to move. Let's say you're going to move in 3 months. There's
mm,
steps that need to be taken. But
mm,
in this moment right now, can I be in acceptance of everything as it is in this moment? And I used to fight against everything that is because I thought, oh, well, once this happens, then I'll be happy. Or I can't believe this is this way. I don't like it. And fighting against things with the thoughts that I'm having.
mm,
And it gets me nowhere because it's kind of like the idea of if you walk outside and you see that you have a flat tire.
mm,
So for me, I have two choices when that happens. I can see the flat tire and be like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. How am I going to get it to the shop? Oh my God, it's going to cost me so much money. Now I can't go to my yoga class or whatever it is. And just creating this dust storm inside of my head. And guess what? My tire is still flat. Or I
mm.
can see the flat tire and say, oh, I guess I'm not going to go to my yoga class today. I guess I'm going to get a new tire. And it's accepting what is and still taking the action to fix it.
Mm.
But both of those experiences of the same thing are very different.
The tire story. I have a question here. Were you being the victim every time in your head? Every time something happened? Because of
Absolutely.
that example you said, right?
Mhm.
It just reminds me of so many times where we asked ourselves, why would this happen to me? You know? As if like I am targeted for this to happen to me, which is no one targeted you. This is how things works in life. Sometimes tires gets flat and you need to deal with it and cancel your appointment. If the other person is flexible enough, they'll understand this is life. If they're not, you'll figure, you know, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah,
But were you in that? Does this one of the things that changed the victim point of view? Because I'm sensing it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it used to be, and let me just say this, that I am not perfect at this. So it's an ebb and a flow. Some days I'm really good about it, about being in
Mm,
acceptance, and some days I'm not. And it's
okay.
because I'm human. So that's okay, but it's a practice. And
Mm,
over time, I have more peace in my life than I used to, but it is an ebb and a flow on a daily basis. But generally speaking, what used to happen is I would wake up in the morning and I would say, I wonder what kind of day I'm going to have. And it would 100% depend on what people said, what circumstances
Mm,
came to be, what happened, what didn't happen, what people didn't say. And I was completely controlled by people and circumstances as to how I was going to feel. And now when
mm,
I wake up, I'm going to decide what kind of day I have. And it's little decisions throughout the day. The flat tire is one example. Maybe I log on for my job that day and a last minute meeting was scheduled. That's going to be an inconvenience, so I can either, oh my gosh, I can't believe this, blah, 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 blah. That whole attitude about it. I'm fighting against what is. I can't control that meeting's going to happen. So how do I want my experience of that part of my day to be? That's up to me. So I
mm,
can decide to complain and moan about it. And now all of a
mm.
sudden my day is quote unquote so bad. Or, oh, guess I'm going to be on a meeting today. And
Yeah.
it's just, there's decisions throughout the day that determine how much chaos I have in my head and how much chaos I don't, how much peace I have.
Mm.
And I always like to joke with my friends. I'll just say, "Well, my peace was really cheap today." Like if someone cuts me off in traffic and I get all worked up about it, I just
Yeah.
gave my peace away for what? Like,
Yeah.
so what? Like someone cut me off in traffic. And other days, I'll get the flat tire and be unbothered by it. And it's all up to me how I choose to react to the things that happen in life.
Mm. I have this saying too. When things happen, I say I have a decision to make. It's either this or this, and I need to stick with this decision, right? And this happened to me when I was told I have immune disease, and I said I'm either gonna be sad about this and decide it's going to ruin my life, or I'm just going to continue with my life and just see how this is going to go because I cannot control that. Right. And even when you choose that hard decision of like adapting to it or living with it or whatever, this decision is going to bring much more harder decisions in your life. And I think what like we need to understand is life keeps happening and hardship is going to keep happening. This is how life is going to be, and you're going to make these decisions over and over and over, like you saying, handing my piece to traffic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or like after you decide I'm not going to get upset about this, you go to work or you arrive work, or let's say you were supposed to meet someone, you go there after that traffic incident and that person canceled when you accepted that, right? And this could lead you to be more frustrated because you accepted the previous one and now you have to deal with this one again, right? So I just want to like how would I say this? I don't want this to be, I love what you said, but I also, it's not me advising, it's just me noticing life, is that it doesn't end on one decision, it just keeps going, it's decision after decision. And let's say if you decided on that example of traffic that you won't be upset about the traffic incident, but you are upset that the other person canceled on you, you're allowed, right? It's okay. What do you think? It's you're allowed because the first one you accepted, the second
Mm-hmm.
one you didn't, or like you accepted but you still have to feel the feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes if when you accept things, or you, it's not forcing it, it is you trying to get good at it, and that's what I find myself doing. I say myself, I tell myself, oh, okay, I did this and this and that, but this has still happened, right? Then I realized when I accepted the decision that happened before, it was my brain telling me to accept it without my heart feeling the feelings. So now the feelings are coming back doubled because I did not face my feelings in the first one. Because when you accept something, you need to feel the feelings associated with it.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense to you? I feel like because
Yeah.
this happens to me a lot when I accept something, and then later on in life I discover that has an underlying feelings to it that I did not deal with it. So I guess like I discovered this lately. So I'm like telling myself, Sabrina, you need to feel the feeling. Give yourself give yourself a day to know how you feel about this. And it's okay. It's not a wasted day because it's a day that you're looking for your feelings. At least this is for me because I have issues with feeling my feelings, right? I don't know about you. What do you think?
I think that you're completely right about that. And I think what kind of more what I'm speaking to is the fact that I will take a disappointing feeling or I get frustrated about something and I will
Mhm.
fuel it and it becomes this giant ball of fire
Mm,
as opposed to just like, oh, well, that sucks. Like, that's frustrating. Oh, well, like to
mhm.
feel it and move on is my goal instead of
Okay.
feeling it and then tunnel vision
Mm,
fueling that, if that
mm.
makes sense.
Yes, it does. You know what? Why it makes sense to me? Because all the time I was pushing my feelings away, it was because I was scared of how intense they are.
Mhm.
So I would be like, no, I accept this. I'm moving on. But at what cost? Because I am scared of feeling the intense feelings. Does that make sense to you? So instead of facing them and trying not to, to like make them less intense, but to know how to deal with this intensity
Mhm.
because it's unfair. Because, like, for now, right now, when I feel such an intense feeling, I would write it down as a poem, right? Or as a just a sentence, one sentence of how I feel. Like the other day, I just wrote that, you know what, I'm sad, I'm frustrated, I'm not going to pretend I'm not. And just writing this down helped me to feel the feeling in the moment and just maybe lay down, not even watching one of my comfort show or like anything comforting for me, but just sitting there for 5 minutes or 2 minutes, whatever minutes I need to go through this feeling, because the goal is to feel your feeling and move on, which is, I feel like you and I have, there's so many feeling in here. You and I have the have the same goal, right? What are the
Mhm.
odds? What are the odds, right?
Yeah.
You and I have this same goal, at least this is the stage of my life where I want to feel the feeling the way it is instead of pushing it away and move on, right?
Mhm.
I don't want to move on neglecting how I feel,
Mhm.
right? So to reach that, you need to go to walk this unpaved path and such a painful path of dealing with the feeling as it goes, and it might you might not find the right way to deal with it. You might not find you might not know how to deal with it. A lot of things might happen, right? But eventually, like baby steps, you're gonna get there, but you're not gonna get there by moving on without feeling all the intensity, because I've tried that and I failed. I'm just here to tell you I failed. That, yeah. What do you
Yeah, I
think?
think I completely agree with that because I used to be completely shut off um, from my emotions to the point where, I've lost relationships because I couldn't say I love you.
Mm,
And I was fine with that because there was just no way that I was going to be able to tap into that. And so the whole idea of vulnerability
mm,
has taken me a long time to see that as a positive and not a negative.
yeah.
And now I find that that's the only way to connect. And I'm not an island of myself. I used to be. And that was not a good experience for me. And now it's okay, let me feel how I'm feeling and not be overcome by it.
Okay. Was alcohol your band aid to not feel the feelings?
Alcohol was
Like,
my solution for everything, big
was
or
okay.
small. It was that was the answer.
That was the
was
answer.
was have some drinks. So
Mm,
yeah, absolutely. I had zero healthy coping skills because I thought that I didn't need any. I didn't even think that there was a problem.
mm. And then you face. I'm so proud of you.
Thank
You have
you.
no idea. Like, to like feel like to have that moment where you push the the cup away, and and then like moving on and being consistent, and then you just you didn't just do that, you made it your work as well, I'm guessing. Not guessing, I'm sure. Right, you made it your work, and now you're talking about it. Like, this is just marvelous to me, at least. I'm just proud, and I don't know, amazed. I can't, sometimes I can't find the English word, so excuse me on that. Right, I want to go back to your movie or feature film, because I in this podcast I just love diving into each guest character, like, 'cause you're the main character, you're like my hero. Right, so okay, this is a recap, right? We're starting by opening scene. You're pushing it away. You're saying this is enough, right? Calling your dad, and he coming over in 2 days, and you were starting the steps and treatment and therapy, I'm guessing. Okay, what happened after that? When did you decide this is going to be something I want to do to people as well?
That really came about when I started having conversations with friends and family and
Hmm.
hearing the suffering they were taking on that I do. I mean, I still do it every day.
Hmm.
Um, but now that I'm aware of it, I can do something with it. I can do something about it. And so when I am talking to a friend or a family member and I hear them saying the same sort of mental or like internal struggles that I
Hmm.
have and that I can do something about, I want to share, I share that with them.
Hmm.
And it's something I'm so passionate about that I can point to my own experience and
Hmm.
say, okay, this worked for me. Maybe it might work for someone else too. And so that's just something I'm very excited about.
Hmm. Were your friends and family, because you said you looked like the full daytime working person coming back doing being bills, were they surprised when they knew, or they already knew? And like, okay, something that like Sans even talked about, or like I've noticed lately, that people around you sees this, they will see the things you don't see, right? Did they saw this, or was it a surprise to them?
They saw it.
They
It,
saw it.
yeah, I tried my best
To
to
hide.
control it, but sometimes bad things would happen and
Mm.
they would see it. So there was one time where I was still very young. I think I was 18 or 19. And I passed out in my mom and dad's living room because I was so dehydrated from drinking the night before. So they had to take me to the hospital so I could get a saline IV or whatever you call it to get
Mm.
rehydrated. There was another time when I think I was, I don't know, maybe 21 or 22, where I had, threatened to harm myself to an ex boyfriend. He called my parents because he was freaked out, and I got checked into the part of the hospital that the doors lock and you
Mm.
can't get out. So I mean, there were definitely things that were happening that I still was going to work and all of that, but there were things happening that they saw
Mm.
that don't happen to people that don't have a problem with alcohol.
Okay, so they saw it. It wasn't a surprise. I was thinking about that, and then of course they asked you how did like other people, and then this is how you got into helping others as well, right? So it went from you. I'm trying to like make a timeline in my head because this is usually what I do when I'm writing something. If you pushing the alcohol away and getting into calling your parents or your dad and getting into uh, recovery with all the therapy and everything you were doing, and then from that people start approaching you, because I find, and this happened to me recently, is when you talk about your experiences, people would approach you about theirs as well. And I'm guessing this is what happened to you, right?
Yes. And when it comes to, because I want to very clearly make a differentiation here, that when it comes to someone that comes to me and they have a similar originating issue, they have an issue with addiction that's
Mm,
outside of anything I would ever do in my business, that would be um, something I would handle in the personal side of my life.
mm,
So the business that I have is more about helping people that maybe they feel overwhelmed by stress all the time, confidence
mm,
issues, and maybe the originating issue is the same and maybe it's not, but the framework for that is the presenting symptoms. So,
mm,
if someone comes to me and they have an issue with drinking, I turn my business hat off right away,
mm,
because
mm,
that's something that, as a person in recovery, I am going to help the next person if they want it. And that's not going to be something I would ever charge 1 cent for, because that's just a part of my own manifesto, I guess, if you will, that I'm always going to be there to help another person. And so that's completely separate from
mm.
the business side of me.
Okay. Um, did you? Okay. Did you do any studying for the business side? Like, were you already doing this? Because you're now making a differentiation. For me, it was the same thing, but now you made a different, like like this is different than this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So did you start the business side after the recovery, or it was already there?
Much later, much
Much, much
later.
later.
So
Okay.
I do have my bachelor's degree in social work.
Oh, great.
Um, I currently work in insurance. But life takes its twists and turns. And so I'm trying to find my way back to what
Mm,
really lights me up inside.
yes. No. I understand that because if you look at my resume, each job is different than the one before. And as someone who appreciate like change, I love it. I don't, so I can relate because I think everything you do in life correlates somehow, but you would know this much more, like you would know this later in life. You'll be like, aha, that's why I went through this, probably because you said you believe in divine and God, and because I do, right? So I always, it's not necessarily, well, for me it's God's plan too, but it's just like, no matter how smart we are, we cannot see the big picture, and I'm grateful for that. I am grateful for not seeing the big picture. It's not because I don't trust myself to handle it or not being patient enough to be there, but I'm enjoying the details of my journey, right? To the point where when I find myself in such an inconvenient place, for me at least at the moment, or with my knowledge, right? Because you have a certain knowledge at a certain time. At this moment, you and I have knowledge, some knowledge, right? Tomorrow we might gain more knowledge, but today our actions are defined by the knowledge we have at the moment, right? Maybe tomorrow would be like, we shouldn't have done that, or I did the right thing but I didn't know I was doing the right thing, right? And that's one of the most I think that's the wonder of life, you know and I'm sure you're going to watch my first episode that will be launching Friday. And one of the things that happened, I don't know if you know this, is I had a kidney failure. And the person approached me for the episode because I said, I know when people say kidney failure, and I wasn't sharing it with people. And the reason I wasn't sharing it with people was I did not see it as a bad thing. to the point that I did not pray to be treated. In Islam, you pray, and you raise your hands to ask for good health. What I asked for was to be strong enough to handle it, right? Because I felt this is a blessing that I don't, maybe I am in pain right now, but I'm pretty sure it's a blessing, and it turned out to be one, right? So you right now, in my opinion, is living that. You are living that, and you are aware of it. I can see this. But in the future, you're going to be much more thankful for it. You saying I'm working in insurance now and I'm trying to get back to this and that, and with your business and everything. But I see that not like I'm such a wise person seeing things. No, it's more like it's more like no, I got you. I know what you mean. Um, I am there too, right? There's something I see ahead in the future. I might not be there, but I'm working towards it. But what I have now, I appreciate it too. And I think that's what you have in your mind right now, right?
Absolutely. And I am so grateful for the job that I do have. It's a phenomenal opportunity for me, and I I love where I'm at right now. And
Mm,
wherever it is that I'm going to be tomorrow, I won't get there without where I was yesterday and where I am today. And so I fully believe that I, for me personally, I pray for guidance every
mm,
day.
mm,
And then I step forward in the confidence that hopefully I'm acting in my higher power God's will and not just mine all the time, because I don't always have the best ideas. But if I can try to get as much guidance as I possibly can, then maybe, something good's going to happen. And so it gives me that confidence that
mm.
I'm right where I'm supposed to be.
Exactly. You are. Yes, you are. Like, I love this. I love how we like I love how we are in the same place somehow, even though we have different experiences in many things. Like, uh, sorry, where are you locating right now? I should have asked this before. So, oh gosh, where are you located?
I'm in Phoenix, Arizona.
Wow, I don't. I'm not good in geography, but I know it's somewhere in the U.S., right? And I'm here in Canada,
Yes.
Toronto, right? And if, like,
Okay.
and like I've traveled a lot too. But what are the odds of you being there, me being here, and different experiences in life? But then somehow we're at this X point that looks pearl to each other.
Mhm.
Do you feel that?
Absolutely. And that's what's so cool about, just going back to that idea of vulnerability, that if I was just like, well, I'm not telling her, well, I probably wouldn't even be on the podcast to begin with. If you had asked me and I didn't want to be vulnerable, I'd be like, I can't do that. But and same with you, if you aren't willing to share with me, we wouldn't know if we were on the same page or not, or having a similar experience of life. And so it's so cool how when I do open up and I'm willing to be vulnerable, that I usually get that back.
Mm, mm, yes, I agree. Um, it's when you start something and you're genuine about it and you show part of yourself, it's like you see how like the petals of the flowers just have you seen those videos when the petal of the flower just
Mhm.
open up? Is This feels the same, right? Because if it didn't open its first petal, the rest wouldn't have become a flower, right? It should have stayed closed. And it's just you just made me think of that, right? You being in the podcast and us talking about this and just sharing it to the world, it's one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to people, and I'm just so happy you agreed too, right? Because I just feel it's important to listen to every single person in this universe, and I wish I can. I wish I can. I wish I can. I don't know if it's possible. Maybe one day it will be, right? I want to go back to your story. I feel like we keep like going because we have so much to say, right? Um, What, since we're talking about weakness and being vulnerable, what do you think was is the most um vulnerable moment in your journey, or in your, like, if you think of it, because we started the opening scene of you pushing the alcohol away, right? Do you think there's a moment where you were like much more weaker than this, or like vulnerable or honest with yourself? Can you think of any other moment?
No. And when I think about the time when I realized I was an alcoholic but continued to drink, it's because I was still in delusion that I was going to be able to control it. So I don't
Mm,
think that that was necessarily a moment of great vulnerability and honesty, because I'm like, yeah, I'm an alcoholic, but dot, dot, dot. So I
mm,
think that was,
I
I
got
think it
this.
was more, yeah, oh my gosh, I got this. Let me just tell you, Sabrine, I don't got
Mm.
this. And it's a relief because I don't have to got this.
No, you don't. And that's something they don't teach you, right?
Mm-mm.
Because you're taught to figure it out. And even like, um I'm thinking movies and films, but we often see that especially pushed into women to like get it all, you know? I don't have to, and you don't have to, right?
Right.
um what's the point of life if you didn't reach out for help? What's the point of other people in your life? And weren't you helping someone at some point in your life? Weren't you? Like, didn't you have moments in your life where you're helping someone?
Absolutely. And you know what that makes me think of is
Mm.
that because I have friends and they're like, well, I didn't want to bother you. Like, oh, I needed help with this, but I don't want to bother you. I'm like, okay, hold on a second.
Bother me.
I'm like, first of all, you're not bothering me. And second of all, and I flip it around and I say, wouldn't you be so happy to help me if I asked you? And they say yes. And I'm like, okay, then why do you want to rob me of the opportunity to help you?
Mm-mm.
Because that
Exactly.
being of service to others is a big part of my the way that I live my life now in recovery is getting out of my own head. So if I got this pity party going on for myself about whatever it might be, it's
Mm,
probably stupid, that I'm just like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening to me.
mm,
Um, I I'll call a friend. Hey, how are you doing? Tell me about your day. Because it gets
mm,
me out of my head. And it's
mm,
the quickest way to do it. And it's at a time where I don't want to do it, because when I
mm,
get into self pity, I'm like busy in self
mm,
pity, right?
mm,
But it's like, okay, Laura, reach out to one of your friends and ask them how they're doing. And I always feel better.
mm. Yes, I agree. I used to do mental health kind of workshops at university during exams, especially. And something we do, probably you've experienced it, especially if you're not living with your parents while in university, or any undergraduate school, or graduate even, is that you think you're so busy to stay connected. That's a lie. That's a lie. We have been fed this lie by busy culture and hustle culture over and over and over and over, and I hate it. You're never too busy. Whatever you're doing is not that important to not stay connected with someone you need, or someone who needs you. And I'm pretty sure that probably 80% of the time, especially in busy places, universities, camps, and cities, most people don't drive. So what I used to tell them is, you're in the bus. How long it will take you to text someone? 2 minutes? Text them, say, hi, how are you? If they are active, they respond back, and you will have a really wholesome 5 moments because you asked about a friend. And it will make them feel good, it will make you feel good, and you will have this human connection, just like what you said, because you were in that state of your mind, self-pity, other states of mind, and you just take it away by talking to someone. And I remember one of my friends, she she's not one of the people, and I don't blame her. It's not just not in her nature. She doesn't pick up the phone and ask about people, right? And and I always ask and ask. And then one day she asked me, what do you do? And at that time I was in my doing my undergrad, working, volunteering, and I had like a chronic disease that I was dealing with, many medications. I was basically disability still, and I'm proud of it, to be honest. It's invisible, but I'm proud of it. So she said, wow, how do you, like, you always ask about people, you always stay connected. And I said, because I want to. And because there is I don't know if it's a culture nowadays or something, is that you don't want to seem needy or having so much time, that's why you're talking to people, or like you just don't have anything to do, that's why you are connected all the time. you know this just, I think that's stupid. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say the word. Right? Isn't it? Wouldn't you like love to get a message from someone asking about you? Would you? Is the first thing that comes to your mind, they have so much time that they asked about me? Would that be the first thing that come to your mind? Or nice, they asked about me, you're happy?
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Right?
And to get that though, I feel like I need to be deliberate and I need to do it.
Yeah. And I would encourage you, like, you're doing it already, you're doing great. Just being like, self-conscious and actively being like, this is one, is this like a coping mechanism for you? Would you name it that?
For reaching out to other people.
Yeah.
It is. I coping mechanism, I think for me kind of has a more negative connotation to it. And
Oh,
I know what you
sorry.
meant. No, 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 don't
Okay.
be sorry. Don't
Mhm.
be sorry. It's semantics. It doesn't matter. But absolutely, that's definitely a part of my toolbox. I don't know. I don't even know what to
Toolbox.
call it. I
Okay.
don't even know what to
I
call it,
like
but
toolbox.
absolutely.
No, I love toolbox. It's one of the tools you use to overcome something that you're
Mhm.
aware that you are going through. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
one of the things that
Yeah.
I suffer from is emotional eating.
Mm.
When I get too emotional, the first thing I'm like, I need to get chips. you know I need to,
Yes.
like, I need to do this, I need to do that, and I'm on medication that if I breathe air, I'll gain weight. And it's not
Mhm.
about how I look, it's about how healthy I want to be. Right? So for me to be aware, this is emotional eating, this is not hunger, or this is not me craving something, it's huge. It's not always, people don't realize this. You don't always acknowledge it, whether it's your brain tricking you not to acknowledge it, or whether you just, like, not self-aware, not acknowledging it. So you acknowledging this and actually have a tool to, like, attack it, or attack is a harsh word. What do you choose as a word? Is that a tool?
I don't know. I mean, that sounds good to me. I know that the key is I have to get into the doing because sometimes I don't do it right away.
Mm,
I'm sad about, or, like take the self pity for example, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. Oh, Laura, you should reach out to a friend. And it's like, well, just let me just sit in my own mess here for a minute. Like it's like that part of me that just wants to feel the suffering for a little while longer. And so,
mm,
it's just like I could see myself doing it. And then I'm like,
mm,
Laura, like what you could do to make yourself feel better. And it's like, well, sometimes I don't do it right away. It takes a little bit longer, but it's okay because I'm a human being. I'm not
mm,
supposed to be perfect, and I'm
mm,
obviously not. And so I also don't want to get into morbid reflection. I don't want to
mm,
be like, oh, Laura, you just did such a bad job with that. Like, no, 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 that's not going to serve me either. So it's just
mm,
doing the best I can, in any given moment or day and moving
mm,
forward from there. But yeah, that's definitely, reaching out to others is something, it's like almost like a selfish thing because I know it's going to help me. So I'm like, let me call my friend right now and see how they're doing.
mm. But that's not selfish. That's what I'm trying to, like, recently I had this conversation with my brother too, is that we don't live alone in this world. And we need to depend on people. I hate the word independent because I used to say to myself, I'm a strong, independent woman and all that shit, right? Oh, I
Mm-hmm.
cursed. Or like I said, that's okay. I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep it because this is who I am. Okay. So I used to tell myself I'm independent, I'm strong, blah 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 blah. And I had this conversation lately too. We think wrong of independency and being strong. We think strong is being independent and figuring things out ourselves and saying, I got this.
Mm.
But in my opinion, after all these experiences, guys, I'm not that old, but stuff happened in life, right, Laura? And then I realized being strong is reaching out. Being
Mhm.
strong is being vulnerable with people and telling them, hey, I need your help. Because this is one of the hardest things that you can do is whether picking up the phone or just going straight to the person or like sending this text message, hey, I need help. It's hard and it's not easy because there's this fear of getting rejected, right? There's this fear of like, and the chances that those people you're approaching have helped you before. It's not the first time, right? There's you asking yourself, would they be like, hey, I helped you 100 times. Why aren't you picking it up your mess yourself,
Mhm.
right? And there is the chance that they're just busy with their lives. They don't have time for you. And there's the chance you're thinking, just like you said, oh, this is selfish, right? But life does not, I don't think we're supposed to like figure it out ourselves. I think our strength is relying on each other sometimes and finding this balance, right? We don't get it. We don't get it all the time, and that's okay.
Mhm.
That's fine in my opinion. What do you think? I
Yeah,
feel like I'm talking more
absolutely.
than you.
Oh my gosh, no, you're not. um, no, I agree, and I think it's again, if I'm getting hesitant, I just got to flip it around on myself and just,
Mm,
it's like I've had examples of people where I've been in a group of people and someone's super vulnerable about something that really surprises me, but then it
mm,
kind of gives me license to do the same. And so it has this like really cool domino effect. So when I'm able to reach out to someone and ask for help, hopefully now they feel more inclined to do that when they need it.
mm. Makes sense. Yes, that's a good point. That's a good point. We help who helped us, and who helped us would reach out to us to be helped too. Because that's how life works, right?
Mhm.
So we need to be more open up about this, being vulnerable, asking for help. Um, I'm trying to think of a theme to your feature film. What do you think a theme would be? Because there's always a plot that's
Yeah.
obvious, and in your case, being sober, alcohol, it's just kind of an reoccurring and asking for help. But what do you think an underlying um, lining theme would be?
I think actually it might be something that I haven't talked about yet, and that is the idea that like I've really been wrong about a lot of the things I thought. Like I was really wrong about what I thought God was. Not that I know what God is now because my brain can't comprehend that, but um I thought God was ABC, and then I come to find out that was totally wrong, which was great news to be wrong. Um
Yes.
I thought that being vulnerable was going to be something that would destroy me, right? That people would reject me. I was wrong about that. And so now it's like I try to have this mindset of I'm inexperienced. Like when I wake up in the morning, I'm inexperienced at how to live life. And what that does is it opens up the opportunity for me to learn something new. So, can I consider the possibility that I'm wrong about fill in the blank, whatever it might be? And so, just that idea of remaining open and teachable, and
Mm,
that being wrong isn't bad. because the things that I've been wrong about in my life, like the big things, like I just mentioned, thank
Mm,
God I was wrong about those things,
right?
and so it's just, it's not like, oh my gosh, Laura, you were just so wrong about that. No, like I understood things as I could at that time. And then
Mm,
perspectives change, new information comes in, and we learn and we grow. And now I
mm.
look at things in a different way. And the same thing will happen either tomorrow or next week or in a month from now. I don't know. I feel like I didn't answer your question about the theme.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. um, I feel like a theme here is being a beginner in everything, right?
Yeah, I like
Being
that.
being teachable. Like,
Mhm.
okay, a theme here also is be a child always. Like you see children, they have the most curious and amazing questions, and they're not scared of asking it, and they make a mistake. We teach them that if you make a mistake, it's bad. But they're not born thinking so.
Mhm.
Are they? No. Have you seen a child, like a little baby, doing something absolutely in our adult mind ridiculous and wrong? And they're laughing about it. They're enjoying it, right? But us as an adult, we were taught over and over and over being ridiculous or being wrong or like, being embarrassed about something. Like, for example, um, something I don't know, something like I used to do where here in Canada is like people will be talking and saying a word that I don't know, right? And I would be like, what does that mean? And one of my friends said, why don't you just Google it instead of asking people? I was like, I can, but what's wrong with asking people,
Mhm.
right? But we are
Mhm.
so scared about our status because they like someone like you know we're scared that if we asked about the meaning of a word or what someone says, it will make us look less smart or unintelligent or stupid or whatever, right? Which are all just words that we could be and we could not be. Like, I am so stupid with math, and I'm okay with that. Okay? I can, I'll use the calculator all the time, and I'm fine with that. Not, I have a friend who would lead the way whenever we're going somewhere because I'm not good with directions. And I rather admit and not get lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because sometimes it's good to get lost, and sometimes you need to be somewhere. You need to get there, right? So I rather admit that than just be like, "Oh, I know where I'm going," and then just And it's not today's not the day to be lost. So I rather have someone help me, right? So I think that's an underlying theme of you is what I see. I see you pushing that alcohol away, seeking help, and just going over your life as you're going through your recovery of and discovering and rediscovering the things that um, you thought right, but they were wrong, or you thought like what you said about God is so beautiful. I wish we can go, and if you have time, of course, go more into this, but something I usually ask my guests is, what do you want me to name your movie? But you said something really good. You said, thank God I was wrong about it. And I
Mm.
absolutely love this. What do you think?
I
Do you
love it.
want, you love it?
I do.
You said it. It's not me. I just wrote it down so I don't forget. You said, thank God I was wrong about this. And how many times? Like, this is a sentence we always, I feel like each one of us have said it before, whether like I remember one time I was late for a train, and when I was like, I was taking transportation, and I was like running, almost got hit by a car. When I reached the counter, I was like, did the train leave? Because I saw a train. I was like, did it leave? And he was like, what train? I said that I used to study in Ottawa. I said it's going to Toronto at 8 what was it, 2:30. And the guy just looked at me and said, um no, it didn't, because it comes at 2:45. The 2:30 is downtown. Then asked this at 2:45. I was like, oh, thank God I was wrong, because I caught it 15 minutes ahead, and I paid like 80 something dollars to be at that time. Now it's like $200.
Hmm.
Unrelated, but it's annoying. They're expensive. So, and that was one of the moments, I can't tell you how many times I almost lost, like, missed my train. And I'm always, thank God I'm there in time. Thank God, this is something happened to people in such unrelated, topics, but we say it, everyone say it. That's why I loved it, because it's something that happens a lot.
Mhm.
What do you think?
It does, it made me think of, so sorry, I gotta take a drink of water.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I have this tendency to think like bad things. Like, I can't even think of an example. Like with work,
Mm,
I get very perfectionist about work, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, um, I think my boss is mad at me because I messaged him on Teams and he hasn't gotten back to me yet.
mm,
And then I'll spiral down this, like, I'm stressing out about something I've created in my head. And then I'll stop and be like, what if you're wrong about that, Laura?
yeah.
Like, what if he's just busy in another meeting? And it's like such a relief. So it's like, it's
Mm,
definitely a theme in my life, because I'll start thinking like, or, like my friend didn't text me back very fast. And so I'll think that she's mad at me. And
mm.
but then I go, wait, what if you're wrong, Laura? What if she's not mad at you? And it's like this great revelation that I could be wrong, and it's like the best thing ever to be
Mm,
wrong.
I know. I've been there. I think, where do you, I don't know where I say that, but I say that we're so different, but we're still the same. It's
Hmm.
crazy. Every time this happens, it blows my mind. I don't know. Maybe I'm a naive person, or maybe I'm someone who just, you know, gets amazed easily. I don't know. I'm not trying to categorize myself, but it's so amazing. That's everything you're saying. I feel and I can relate to, and that's the like importance of this conversation, because they just like the flower, you expect it to look certain way, but when it's open, it's even more beautiful than you think. And thank God I was wrong about it. I'm going to name this episode "Thank God I Was Wrong About It," because
I
I
love it.
think that's the theme of it. I think I love it. I'm so happy you're here. Oh gosh, I know you have to go. But just if you would, this really interested me. You said you were wrong about God.
Hmm.
In what way? Like, give me like a. I love God so much. So if you
Yeah,
give me
yeah.
like,
Oh my gosh. Yeah, yeah. Oh my God, that's so awesome. I love it. So
okay.
I was raised in a religious household,
Mm-hmm.
and for me, for some reason, I never felt a connection with God at church. I don't know why. And let me just say that, people that are religious and they go to church, I have so much respect for that, because it's such a personal thing.
Mm,
And I always thought that God was some far away thing in the sky that I can't
mm,
touch. And when people would be like, "Oh, I'll pray for you," I'm like, "Well, okay." Like I'm like, that doesn't mean anything to me. Like it's just
mm,
words. Like it's a nice sentiment. And
mm,
then once I got sober and started looking into ways to rid the chaos, right, that's in my head, I found my connection to God. And it's it continues to blow my mind that prayer works. Prayer is powerful. I I can connect with God and tap into that power. And the cool thing is that, you know, I used to, like, I feel like I'm so much stronger now, but really, Sabrine, I don't think that I'm any more capable. It's just that I'm depending on God more. And so I have God's support
mm,
more. I always had it, but like now I'm like actively seeking on a daily basis. How can I engage with God more? How can
mm,
I tap into that power of God more? What
Mm,
can I do? I do my morning prayer meditation.
mm,
Lately, I've started also saying, God, please speak through me today to everyone I talk to, and please guide every single one of my decisions on the hope
mm,
that I will get out of the way for some of that and allow him to
mm,
speak through me and allow him to work through me, because my ego is constantly fighting for its life and wants to run the show.
mm,
And when I just want God in my life as much as possible, because my experience is that when I'm willing to get out of the way and try to have God lead me, things just go better.
mm. Yes, I agree. This is so beautiful. This is so beautiful.
And
Um,
oh,
yeah,
sorry.
go ahead.
Um,
No.
so I just wanted to add that, like, this podcast is an example of this. So I did a little bit of prep, like not much. I like took your questions and kind of thought about them for a little bit,
Mm,
but that's it. I tried to just not prepare so much, because
mm,
I want to be my true authentic self. And when I really start to prep, like over prep,
mm,
then my pride is in there, right?
mm,
Because, well, I want to make sure I come across this one certain way, and I want to make sure this happens and that happens, and it's like, well, what does God want me to do? Like,
mm,
I need to try to get out of the way. And so before the call, I did pray and I just said, God, please speak through me on
mm,
this podcast. Please guide, give me direction and intuitive thought, so that hopefully my fears won't keep me blocked, right? And say, like, present myself in a way that is fear based,
mm.
like, which cuts me off from being more vulnerable.
Yes, I agree. I love this last part. I'm scared of crying because I love God, and I too, I won't say discovered. I was taught a lot of things in my religion, and I'm not necessarily, I wouldn't say I was brought up in a very strict religious environment. Something surprising for a hijabi girl, I know. But things were different, and I started seeking it at such a young age, probably 13 or so. And what I love about what you say is, um, something I said a couple days ago is, am I passive because I just go with the flow, right? And I was annoyed at myself. And we have the same example, this podcast. I don't prep, you know, I don't prep at all. And most of the times I don't prep. Maybe for some interviews, like finding a job. But for this podcast, I told myself I'll show up, and whatever the guest is saying, I'll be responding to that, even if it sounded stupid, if it's annoying or whatever. I can edit it later, but I'd rather show up as myself, just like what you said, right? And I too prayed before. It was my prayer, the 5 prayers we do, and the one at noon. um but I was thinking, going back to being passive, is why am I going with the flow? Why I'm not? Because, you know, when I was doing my neuroscience, I wanted to go to med school because I was in med school for 3 years before I moved to Canada. And everyone was like attending these pre-med societies, studying hard, doing this, doing that. And I'm just like, why is everyone stressed? I was not. And it's not like I was getting the best grades. I kid you not, I failed one class first year, right? And and I was sick. Like, I was in the hospital the first term. I was in the hospital so many times, and I just kind of let it go, and I didn't let go of the dream of going back to medical school, but I was not as stressed as everyone else. And right now, when I look back, I always ask myself, why am I not, like, why can't I just be stressed about things? Am I passive? And then when I go back and look at everything that happened to me that was good, or what people are calling nowadays manifestation, right? Because I kid you not, what you say prayer works. I kid you not that I sometimes ask for a thing today and I get it tomorrow because I have the faith that I will get it, right? And it's not manifestation, it's just prayers. For
Mhm.
me at least, you know? And I realize I'm not passive. I just have true trust in God of how my life is handled. Um, just like what you said, my ego wants to lead the way, but it's not up to my ego. It's it's just the faith I have that wherever I'm going, it's just if it meant to happen, it will. If it doesn't, it won't. Whatever comes out of my mouth, whatever happens, I just have this faith. It's not me being passive. I just got to this conclusion because I felt like everyone is planning, 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 prepping, prepping, prepping. And here I am. I don't even edit this podcast. I just put my intro and outro. And because I don't know how to edit, I'm not a professional editor, but I want to do this podcast and I want to meet people like you, right? And I get surprised by people like you, get amazed, and I love connections and I love hearing people's stories and I love writing. Maybe one day you'll be one of the characters after you permission, of course. If I get to make a movie ever, right? Maybe your character would be one of those characters that inspire people and people hear your story, right? So I want to start now, even if it didn't go anywhere, at least I did it, right? So if I started, for me, if I started prepping, like what you said, if I start prepping, I'm trying to control and I want to do good, I want to show up as myself, I better just trust the process with my faith, add it to it, and with God's, a feeling that presents in my life, because I too used to think he's up in the sky looking at us,
Mhm.
but I don't think so. I think we have it in Quran that says God is closer to you than your veins. This
Mhm.
vein. It's a verse from Quran that God, you have no idea. Like I can't do accurate translation, right? But it says God is closer to you than this jugular vein. That's how God is close to you, right? And I believe in that. And even when I wouldn't say commit a sin, when I'm weak enough to do something that's against my religion, it's not because I intentionally wanted to do it. I always say, God, I'm so weak. I just. And it's not an excuse. It's just who I am as a human being. So this last bit, just that's why I feel like crying, but I don't want to cry. So thank you. Thank you for sharing this bit with me. I wasn't sure if you got the time to do it, but I am so happy you did. God, I can't believe, what are the odds we're so similar in everything?
I have to tell
Like,
you that the saying that you just said about the vein. So me and some of my friends will say that I have to remember that God is closer to me than my breath. So like
mhm,
the fact that you said that, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I say that too.
mind blowing. how like how similar we are. That's interesting. Different life, different people,
Mhm.
experiences. I don't know the ages. We're not gonna mention age here. Not that I'm ashamed of it. I don't know. My birthday actually is Friday. You know, that's why I'm launching the podcast on Friday. But you know, and I tend to go into tangents. I'm sorry for all my guests in advance.
I
Just
do it
why.
too, though. I do it too because it's like we get excited about what we're talking about.
Yes, I just, and how this is talking, speaking about chaos, when you were talking about it, I was like, I don't want to tap into your experience and change it or anything, but why do you don't like it? Because I have so much chaos in my head. Um, and I'm not adapting to it or anything, but I find it's part of how my creativity works,
Mhm.
that my brain goes into, how would I describe it? It's like I was telling Ray, one of the night owls, it's like a tree that has so many, I want to say veins, because I see tree branches as veins too.
Mhm.
So it has like the roots, and then you have like, the trunk and everything. That's how I see the chaos in my brain. It looks like a chaos, but it's so connected to each other that I'm scared of breaking it apart. That's why I'm not letting it lead the way, but I'm just like, I think I can do something with it. I can, I think it can become a partner. Have you thought about this with what you have in your mind?
So I think well, I know when I'm talking about the chaos in my head, it's those times when I'm feeling discontented
Okay.
and uncomfortable in my own skin and
Mm,
those sort of things. So what you're talking about is something very positive, I think. So
mm.
it's, I think I just use the word chaos because I don't really know like a better word to use for it, but it really has more to do with when it's,
Is it
what is
intrusive
my
thoughts?
experience of life? Like, yeah, intrusive thoughts are just like that feeling of being disturbed or discontented, um,
Mm.
that blocks me from what you're talking about.
Yes. Okay. I gotcha. I gotcha. I think it's just us using the same term for different things.
Mhm.
I should have like talked about this earlier. I don't know why I'm mentioning it at the end. Again, it's how my brain works. I'm sorry about this. I want to talk with you for hours, but I know we can't. Okay, but we can come again to this at some point, right?
Mhm.
I am so happy and grateful um that you are here today and you shared this narrative. And I see like I see your feature film as a relatable, and how do I say, I see it as someone. Have you heard the term touch my heart?
Mhm.
I feel like, okay, have you watched the documentary Octopus is My Teacher?
I haven't.
Okay, it's a great documentary, and there is a time where this it's about this director who goes into um I don't know how to name it. I forgot the term. But anyways, he made a friendship with an octopus, and what happened? The friendship started by him putting his hand, and the octopus touched it to like each of them experience touching,
Mhm.
and he just stood still for the octopus to like feel him. And I feel that's what a feature film about you would be. That moment of octopus touching that the human friend, and gaining his trust, or like kind of like knowing, because it started like this journey. And I feel like a feature film about you would have that effect on people, because it's so relatable. And even if someone didn't live the same thing you lived, how you described it, and how you talked about it, touched me. And probably change something, and it would not trigger, but it would start a thought or journey in my brain. I just want to leave with your final thoughts.
With my final thoughts.
Yes, yes. When we named your
Oh boy.
movie, we got the plot, and you said you're
Yeah.
not changing your opening scene. That's like, and I think your movie would be an open ending one, with you just you know you right now,
Mhm.
um and people just imagining how are you going to be creating a wonderful life, not just for yourself, for the people you encounter as well, I'm one of them. So I want to have your final thoughts on, like, I don't know if this is your first time sharing it, um the story, probably it's not, but like coming into this experience and talking about it, or like you thinking about a feature film about you.
It is the first time I've talked about it in this sort of a forum.
Hmm.
So it's more of a on a public scale.
Yes.
Um, but that's my truth. And so that's what I wanted to come with.
And I appreciate you for coming with your truth and for sharing it and being so brave, um, and generous too. Because not in my like how I see things is not usual say that, or I used to say that not everyone deserves my truth. But
Mm.
for you to be generous enough to show us this and sharing it with us is just so kind. And I'm speechless. I'm speechless. So thank you so much. I am so grateful for having you here, Laura. And yeah, thank you.
Well, I'm
I'm
I'm so grateful that you invited me. Like this has been a really great experience for me and getting to know you better. So this has just been really great. I feel very honored.
Thank you. I'm the honored one. I got to know you, to know who you are, and you allowed me to ask you questions and discuss this with you, your life, and I feel like I want to see you again a year from now, um, to talk again because, I don't know if I've said this before. I like reading books and watching movies a year from now because I am a
Mhm.
changed person. So I see new perspective, but this is even more interesting because you're the person who's changing and I am changing. And we're just going to go back to this and talk about this. I know this is not our final conversation. I
No,
know
no,
this is
not
a
at all.
start. No, it's
Mhm.
not.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Let's get, connected more and talk more and I'll see you
Mhm.
again more, right?
Yes.
So, thank you, Laura. And thank you, everyone, for listening, watching, and tuning in with this. And as usual, I am a writer. I'll be asking you the question: what would you tell me if I'm writing a feature film about you? You've been listening to The Lemon Narrative with Sabrine. I'm Sabrine, your host. Have a good one. Bye.